Radhe Krishna, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Srimate Ramanujaya Namaha. Welcome to Thirukkolur Penpillai Rahasyam, episode number 72. Devotion is something which comes out straight from the heart. Just like a child feels the natural love towards its parent, and vice versa. Similarly, a devotee feels that love for the Supreme Lord, or a disciple would have that kind of a natural love for his spiritual master. So, devotion is something beyond language. It's not constrained by a particular language, which means it's not that prayers said in a specific language only reaches God. It's not the case. Even prayers which are felt within, which are not spoken in any language, that also reaches God equally as prayers would do. And the blessings and the grace which the devotee gets, irrespective of prayers or no prayers, in the sense explicit prayers or no explicit prayers, it bestows the same grace on him or her. In our today's Bhakti Rahasyam, we are going to see the story of one such devotee who was constrained by speech. He was a speech impaired person, he couldn't speak. So Thirukkolur Penpillai benchmarks herself with this devotee, and this devotee is again none other than a devotee of Swami Ramanuja himself. So quite a lot of Bhakti Rahasyams which involve the life of Swami Ramanuja himself, which Thirukkolur Penpillai is just outpouring. So this again, this point I made in the last Bhakti Rahasyam as well. We just feel that how contemporary news could reach people in those days in the absence of social media or newspapers or WhatsApp or Facebook. Yet Thirukkolur Penpillai Rahasyam itself is a great living example of how things spread in those days, to the extent that Thirukkolur Penpillai knew so much about the important events and incidents, important people in the life of Swami Ramanuja, to whom she was talking to. So her 72nd Bhakti Rahasyam goes like this. She says, "Did I receive something dearer than life, like Umai Vaishnava?" So Umai Vaishnava is literally translated into English from Tamil as a speech impaired devotee. Umai is speech impaired and Vaishnava is devotee of Lord Vishnu. So Umai Vaishnava, or the speech impaired devotee, he was living in the ashram or the mutt of Swami Ramanuja himself. He used to do all the odd jobs in the mutt, like he used to come together, used to lend a helping hand for decorating the ashram when various festivals were held. He used to keep the surroundings clean. He was, naturally he couldn't speak, so not many people came and easily connected with him. For him, just seeing Swami Ramanuja was the greatest bliss for this devotee. So he just used to go on carrying his duties. At times he would sit and listen to the philosophical discourses of Swami Ramanuja when he used to give those in public. Even this devotee used to sit and listen, but nobody knew or even cared to know if this devotee really understood what Swami Ramanuja was explaining about. But they could see that this devotee always had tears in his eyes, and he always used to look at the divine face of Swami Ramanuja and go on carrying his duties. So this way life went on for this devotee. There was one point in time when in the mutt there were only 3 people. That is, Swami Ramanuja was there, his ardent disciple Kuresa, he was there, and this speech impaired devotee, he was also present. Others were busy with some other spiritual activities or the activities of the mutt. So when these 3 people were there, Swami Ramanuja once came out of his room. He saw this speech impaired devotee at a distance. He was sitting by himself, just lost in his own thoughts. Obviously, not difficult to guess, he would be absorbing himself in the meditation of Swami Ramanuja. So Swami Ramanuja started walking towards this devotee. The devotee also saw him coming towards him. He got up, he reverentially bowed. There is nothing which shows that in the past he had a private audience with Swami Ramanuja. Everyone was busy in their own activities. So it was today that there was no one present in the mutt. So Swami Ramanuja came up to him. He signaled him in the sign language to come to his room. Now this was too much for the devotee to bear. I mean, his life was always centered around just looking at Swami Ramanuja. Today, the very Swami was calling him to his room. So this devotee never in his dreams would have expected a private audience with Swami Ramanuja. So Swami Ramanuja took him to his room. He sat in his usual seating. The Umai Vaishnava was sitting near him. So Swami Ramanuja, through sign language, he explained to the devotee to take shelter in the holy feet of Swami Ramanuja himself and go on carrying his duties. So he kept, that is Swami Ramanuja, kept his hand over the head of Umai Vaishnava, blessing him and bestowing the ultimate grace. Now this was too much for the devotee to even, like, he was living his dream where he got some private time with Swami Ramanuja. Swami Ramanuja blessed him by putting his hand over the devotee's head. What more, he signaled towards his holy feet that if he needs to take refuge in the holy feet, just like the Lord in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18 says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchah. Just surrender to me. I will take care of everything. Don't worry. So this is what the Lord says towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita. So for Umai Vaishnava, it was Bhagavad Gita in reality, Bhagavad Gita in practice, where Swami Ramanuja was asking him to surrender at his holy feet. Now, this entire episode, the third person who was there in the mutt, Kuresa, he was watching this episode. At that moment, he felt that, oh, what is the use of this great knowledge which I have acquired? This innocent Vaishnava, he has got the greatest grace of Swami Ramanuja. Swami Ramanuja personally blessed him. He asked him to take refuge into his holy feet, which Kuresa feels, oh, in spite of being an ardent devotee, I have never got such an opportunity. So when the Umai Vaishnava came out, feeling his face was full of bliss, Kuresa could see him, and Kuresa hugged him tightly. He felt that at least, by hugging this devotee, maybe he could get some kind of that grace which was bestowed by Swami Ramanuja. So such was the feeling of the Umai Vaishnava as well as Kuresa, who had witnessed this entire event. Now Thirukkolur Penpillai is comparing this particular incident. She feels that the acharya's blessings, or the blessings of the spiritual master, that is very difficult to get. If one gets it, that is even dearer than life. She regards the blessings of, the special blessings of spiritual master as greater than life, dearer than life, which this Umai Vaishnava had got. Now everyone is on the path of spirituality. They follow various practices. Now certain practices are easier to connect to the Lord and the spiritual master. Certain practices are difficult in reaching the Supreme Person. Now Umai Vaishnava, he knew his limitations. He knew that he couldn't speak, he couldn't express, but he could think very well. So that devotion overflowed, and that was his constant spiritual practice, day in and day out. So even for every one of us, some sort of constant spiritual practice is necessary to reach to greater heights. Now Umai Vaishnava followed it to the core, and as a result of his devotion, constant devotion, he could get the special blessings of Swami Ramanuja. So Thirukkolur Penpillai feels that she is nowhere close to the devotion, to that spiritual, true spiritual love which was displayed by this devotee. So she says, did I get something dearer than life like the Umai Vaishnava got? Now that was the content of our Bhakti Rahasyam number 72. A message for us is just like this Umai Vaishnava. We should also be speech impaired in many situations in life. By speech impaired, I don't intend that we stop speaking, but we can definitely restrain ourselves when there are, say, unwanted gossips going on, when there are irrelevant talks between people or in the midst of a group, or we can deliberately restrict ourselves by talking ill about others. Now all these, talking ill about others, unwanted gossip, irrelevant talks, and many such things, in this age of information overload, I need not emphasize the amount of gossips, the amount of totally unwanted talks which distract our attention, which purely kills our time in these negative activities. So instead of focusing all these negative activities, if we were to be in such a situation, we should be acting as the Umai Vaishnava. We should be speech impaired, where we don't talk through our mouth, and speech impaired is also the other form of impairment is also through mental control, where we don't give importance to these things which are going around us by thinking too much about it. So that way, if we are in our constant spiritual practice, we keep away from all these negativities in life, definitely we are progressing day by day in our spiritual activities, in our spiritual heights. So are we doing it or not? That is for every one of us to assess for ourselves and accordingly improve. That's all from our current Bhakti Rahasyam. Stay blessed, stay devoted, and stay tuned for our next Bhakti Rahasyam. Radhe Krishna, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Srimate Ramanujaya Namaha.